Okay, I'm trying to use this machine.
Yeah, Sundays is usually like very flexible.
I just parked in 8, otherwise I'll never park.
Hey, Sundays free.
С настоящим фотоаппаратом.
Привет, привет. Я сразу не узнал.
Hello? Okay, friends, I think it's time to begin. If people are late, they will hear us and probably make it, easier. Yeah.
What Simon is he back?
Simon is coming. Do you hear me? Yes. Okay. So we gather here today to remember and mourn the millions of human lives lost under totalitarian regimes like Nazism and socialism. 81 years ago, on August 23rd, 1939, two evil empires, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, led by two bloody dictators, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, signed a notorious non-aggression pact. This agreement triggered the start of the most devastating war in the history of mankind. And the world was never the same. World War II took the lives of about 80 million people, both military and civilian. Any human death is a tragedy, but among those who perished during the war, there were 11 million people who did not fall in the combat, and nor did they die from hunger, or they were not killed by bombs. They were purposefully and mercilessly killed by the German National Socialists, just because they were different. By race, by religion, by views. 6 million Jews, 1.5 million Gypsies, 100,000 homosexuals, 3,000 Catholic priests, resistance fighters, and the list can go on. That is what any type of socialism does. It kills people who are different. There is no place for tolerance or diversity under the oppressive regime. Right after the war, the second act of the tragedy began. The evil Soviet Empire spread its poisonous wings over Eastern Europe, Southeastern Asia, and eventually Latin America, and infested those countries with communist ideology. Not everybody knows that the total death toll for countries under communist rule is way more than in the Second World War. It counts about 120 million dead. Among them, 70 million under Cultural Revolution in China, 25 million under Stalin in Russia, 3 million in Korea, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and people died from hunger, in labor camps, from political persecution, from poverty, disease, combined with poor medical health system. These people were destroyed not in war, not by an enemy, but at the hands of their own governments. Victims of the socialist regime are not only the people who were physically killed, but all those whose life was damaged, deprived of dignity, fulfillment, and basic human rights. Today you will hear the real stories of real immigrants from different socialist countries who fled to America to live a full and free life. America never failed us before, and we proudly and gratefully call her home. That is exactly why we are disturbed and concerned by the recent events and trends pervasive in our country at the current moment. It is very easy, especially for young people, to be seduced by luring slogans of social justice, equality, and free everything. But we, people who lived under socialism, know how it works. like in any other totalitarian regime, step by step, covering by nice words, they destroy your life. First, they intimidate and silence their opponents. They censor books. They rewrite history. They destroy monuments. They denounce your religion. Then they come after your property. And make no mistake, when they take from the rich and give it to the poor, it's not like everyone becomes rich. It's like everyone becomes poor. And before you know it, there is no free election, there is no freedom of speech, and you are not a free individual anymore, but a little item in a huge government machine. Please listen to people who escaped socialism. They will share their life experience and their views on socialist regime. Okay, the first to speak is Alex Koifman. He's an IT consultant. He's the president of Russian Jewish Community Federation. Came here as a teenager in 1978.
Dear friends, can you hear me well? Okay. I'm very happy to see you all here. I would like to tell you about my personal story growing up in Belarus. Belarus, the Social Soviet Republic of Belarus, is located next to the big brother Russia and next to Poland. But the main thing here is Socialist Republic. I was born in a small city. My parents, when I was born, lived in a communal apartment. Okay. We lived in a communal apartment. For many of you who don't know what it is, I will explain. But for the ones who probably know what it will be just a reminder. Sorry, it may be a sad reminder. So when I was born, my family of 4 people, my mom, my dad, my brother, and I lived in a communal apartment. We had 2 rooms for our family, and 2 other families had another room. And we all shared a bathroom and a kitchen. Let me tell you about my family a little bit, because my parents are the ones who told me about the truth. So my dad was a doctor. He volunteered to the Red Army during the Great Patriotic War, but he became very quickly disillusioned by the Soviet system when he saw wave after wave of young Red Army soldiers being sent to needless death. In the Soviet socialist system, people were disposable, unlike rifles and tanks that were very valuable. My mom was an attorney, but also very quickly she realized that being a defense attorney meant really nothing in the Soviet legal system. I, like everybody else around me, was honored by having free education. First, I went to kindergarten, then I went to school, then I went to college. From the early childhood, I was told to sing Communist Party songs, praising the socialist paradise that we experienced, praising the party, not my parents. And everyone had to conform to the same idea and the same look even. We all had to wear short haircuts, wear uniforms in school, and also sing communist songs. And if you were, you had to wear a special attire such as ties, red ties around your neck, or the buttons. My class in my school had 42 students and 1 teacher. This is social education for you. Then the time came for me to go to college. Being a Jew, I faced different obstacles because the Soviet Union, the socialist paradise, was discriminating against Jews. So a lot of prestigious schools and professions were off limits to me. But let me tell you about the free education in the Soviet Union and how someone goes to college. So first of all, you apply 1 college a year. Not unlike America, where we apply to 5 colleges or 15 colleges, 1 college a year. And very few people actually applied. Now in my particular school, the acceptance rate was 25%. That means from the applicants, 75% did not get in. And if you did not get in, then you would go, if you were a boy, go to the dreadful Soviet army. Then the school started. And guess what? The first month of September, I'm not attending classes. I'm being sent to pick potatoes in the potato field with my bare hands like everyone else, because the Soviet agricultural system was not able even to pick up potatoes, to pick potatoes. Then going through school after graduation, people would be sent after graduation for 3 years to some undesirable locations where the party bureaucrats and administrator would decide where you would go. Okay, next thing, 100% employment. Great thing. But what would happen to people who didn't want to work or who did not work in the Soviet Union? They would go to prison. In prison, in the socialist prison, you work hard and you work for free. Also, I would like to tell you another benefit of the social system, the social medicine. I know it quite well because my dad was a doctor. So in the morning, hundreds of sick people would come to the hospital and get a number in a live line to see a doctor that day. Of course, no appointments, but you could only see the doctor by the zip code. And of course, a lot of doctors were deprived of basic medical knowledge, deprived of equipment and medications. And the patients, of course, wanted to see the best doctor. So, like in any restrictive system, people know how to get around this. So, for example, someone who wanted to see a doctor out of their zip code, they would approach the doctor and say, "Doctor, I am a government store manager. If you want to have better selection of food, I can provide a backdoor entrance for you, unlike the front door entrance that had much less food that was available for general public." So this is how the system worked. You didn't have to pass bribes under the table. So they will tell you, okay, well, the Soviet Union had a bad implementation of socialism, and Sweden is the new socialist paradise. Well, lately, they haven't been mentioning Sweden. I guess the commissars don't think that it handles the latest events well. But Sweden did try socialism for a number of years, and then they realized that they cannot sustain it, and they switched back to the free market economy. In Sweden, for example, the school, everyone is provided with school choice. That is, every student can get a school voucher and go to a school not by the zip code, by where they want to go. So in Sweden, half of the students go to private schools. Also in Sweden, they privatized public transportation and they privatized social security. Socialism in the Soviet Union, unlike in Sweden, collapsed because of the economic ruin. But while they were collapsing, they ruined millions and millions of lives. The socialist system is the most inefficient system you can think of. Imagine you have a bureaucrat who takes somebody else's money, passes them through himself, and gives it to somebody else, which is very different when you spend your own hard-earned money on yourself. And when people tell you, or politicians or activists tell you, the bright future is ahead, run away. There is no free, bright future. I know it. It didn't work anywhere. So when I came to this country, people were jokingly telling me, the Russians are coming. That was many years ago, and I guess there was a movie about it. Well, I would like to tell you, the Russians are not coming, but the Soviet Union is, unless we, the people, do something about it. Thank you very much.
Hello? Okay, our next speaker is a young, beautiful lady who needs to go very soon. So Tatiana Semirok, Medvedev Semirok. Tatiana is, she came to America in 1988. She is an entrepreneur, an inventor, a photographer, and she is a widowed mother of 3 little girls. So she has a lot on her plate, and she also runs for state representative for 6th Plymouth district. Tatiana.
Do I press anything?
Not really. You just speak into here.
Здравствуйте. Hello. Hola. ¿Alguien aquí de Venezuela? Muchas gracias. Здравствуйте, дорогие все наши former survivors, I guess, of the former Soviet Union. My name is Tatiana Samirov, and I'm running to be a state representative in the 6th Plymouth district against a very radical leftist that I hope to beat and have a very good chance of beating. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. I come from a little town of Nakhodka, which is by Vladivostok, which is in the very far edge of the world, as I like to call it, the far east of Russia. My summers were spent swimming in the Sea of Japan. Literally, Japan was just below us. So I had a pretty good childhood until I started learning about what it meant living in a socialist, communist country. It meant that my great-grandfather, Afanasy Railan, may his memory be eternal, was persecuted so severely by the Stalinist regime, by many that came afterwards, all because of his faith in God. They raided his home and they found a Bible, and because he refused to be a communist and continued to have faith in God and preach the word of God, he and his brothers were committed to be executed. His brothers were executed on the spot while he was giving 40 days in a kamera smертников, which is death chamber. He awaited 40 days for his name to be called while being there with many others. And every morning the door would open and he awaited his name, but it wouldn't be called, it would be someone else's name. 40 days like this. When his name was finally called, he couldn't find the door, the exit, because of the sheer stress of what he's lived through. Instead of being executed, he was given 20 years in the gulags in Siberia, in labor camps. Now, meanwhile, his wife and 7 children were kicked out of their communal living and left to roam the streets. They built a землянка, which is a bunker, by a river and lived in there for 7 years. 4 children died of malnutrition. As a little girl, learning these things directly from my grandmother was heartbreaking. But at the same time, when my father told me, when I reached 1st grade, he said to never ever put the star of Lenin on my lapel in school, I understood why. And I was proud to not put Leninskaya zvezdочка, the Lenin star. Later on, we had to wear as you remember, the red scarves around our necks. I did not put one on either. Neither did my brothers. It drove my teacher insane, poor Irina Nikolaevna. But another teacher who was my brother's teacher, she would literally call up my brother to lineyka, the line of the class, and in front of everybody would just start beating them for not wearing the communist Lenin star. So while I did not survive the gulags, nor did my father, my great-grandfather did, thank God, but I felt suppressed, oppressed, and persecuted while living as a 10-year-old girl in Russia. And when the opportunity came in 1988, during Perestroika, for a lot of the Jewish people to be let out, my community of Protestant Christians in my little town of Nakhodka petitioned President Reagan to be signed on to the same Lautenberg Amendment. And thank God that that was done. We went through Vienna, and then we went to Italy, and from there we came to Massachusetts. Now, on to this beautiful state that I'd love to talk to you about. This state is the cradle of liberty, not just for the pilgrims who came here many, many years ago, but for people like me and people like you. This is where my American dream was born, in Springfield, Massachusetts. Yes, we did live in a basement of a church, but it was better than living in the communal living in Russia, until we did get an apartment. We came here with nothing. We were nobodies, we were refugees. But we received the greatest gift, and that gift is the pursuit of happiness and the American dream. And let me tell you, we are the lucky ones. There's so many ones who stayed behind. So many people who want to come here and take advantage of the same American dream, but they can't. Why are we better than them? How did we come here? How were we chosen? I don't know. But the destiny is looking at us now, because now we have a unique opportunity, don't we? Knowing what we survived, knowing what we left behind, we are now given a choice to continue living the quiet lives that we came to live here, wanting to be left alone by the government, wanting to pursue our dream, or to stand up and say, hold on, this American dream is now being threatened. Our freedoms are being chipped away little by little, especially in this beautiful state. While we have been quiet and silent, free to raise our children, to work, to pursue our dreams, the left, the radical left, has been very active. And look at what they've turned this beautiful state into. Look at the kind of legislature that they're passing right behind me at the beautiful State House. I am hoping to change all of that. And I'm asking everyone who has survived what I have survived to stand up and say, not this time. The Nazi Germany and the Bolshevik regimes that overtook our countries did so because a lot of good people did nothing. They remained silent. Whether it's for fear of oppression or suppression, or just apathy, they did nothing. And I hope that that is not what's going to happen in this country. I hope that people like you and I will choose to not do nothing, to do something, to say, we know where all of this leads to. We have been there. We have seen the suffering. We have overcome tremendous odds and survived. And we don't want to see this again on the beautiful shores of America. We have that choice today, and I hope we all choose to be loud, even louder than the violent leftists are. They are very loud. You know why they're loud? Because they're filled with hate and fear. And that is why they're loud, and that is why they're violent. But we need to be louder. And what needs to drive us is love. Love for this country. To give back to this beautiful country that gave us everything. Every single dollar that you have earned in this country is a dollar way more than what we could have earned back home. America gave us that. And what are we going to do now to say thank you? How are we going to give back? I urge you and call upon all of you to unite. We have a unique perspective, and America is blessed to have us. We have to be active. We have to be organized. We have to be united, and we have to be loud with love. All right? Please check me out, my campaign. I have some literature that I could give about, it's here, right? Yeah, here it is. I have plenty of these to give out. Please see my web address here. If you want to get involved in any way and help me, please do so. Any donation, any volunteer opportunities. We have to become active to give back to this beautiful country. I'm a widow with 3 little girls, but I couldn't sit anymore. I just couldn't. Because I knew what it means to remain silent. I knew what's coming. I know what's behind those doors of radical leftism. And that is why I'm standing up. And I hope to rally all of you to stand up with me and protect this amazing country, this beautiful state of Massachusetts. Thank you.
Great speech. Okay, our next speaker is Victor Hugo Rodriguez from Venezuela. It's working.
It's working now? It's working now?
Not really.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, that's
Hello.
working.
Hi, how are you? I think you can hear me now. Is that okay? Excellent. So listen, the first thing I want to do is for you to engage in my words, because one of the first things I'm going to ask you, even though I have my political, let's say, some sort of decision as an American, I came to this country in 1999. I don't want to make my words political speaking, because the problem that we're facing is beyond the political aspects of what's happening in America. And as Tatiana is mentioning, what is happening specifically in the state and the fears that we all have about the freedom. I'm going to tell you quickly about my history so you can actually understand where I came from. I'm from Venezuela. I don't want to say I escaped the regime, because I came way before the implementation of the economical things and the political things were implanted by President Chavez in Venezuela. But we all know that President Chavez was following everything that was happening in Cuba and how this evil, and I have to call it that way, Fidel Castro and the regime actually tried to conquer some sort of what's happening in Latin America, or what was happening in Latin America. So I decided to came to America mostly for not only for the freedom, but for the opportunity to impact the region on education. But what I find out after coming to the country was the change in Venezuela and the cut of the freedom by the President Chavez. So actually, obviously, that captured my attention, and I keep my ties with the country, and I found out that Venezuela was following exactly what the Russians and the other latitude that face not only socialism but communism was trying to achieve. President Chavez was having the agenda of trying to change Venezuela, and unfortunately I have to report today that he did it. He actually changed the country, and just to give you an idea, I know you are seeing the news, but to give you an idea, Venezuela is the country with the biggest oil reserves in the world. Venezuela is now one of the poorest countries in the hemisphere, and probably is in the top 10 poorest countries in the world. Not only because of the mismanagement, but obviously because of the corruption. That being said, I'm very sad to see what's happening in my country, and obviously I accept to come to this speech and talk to you guys because I'm seeing what is happening in America, and I obviously am a little concerned about what I'm seeing is doing those changes that start in my country that I'm seeing right here. But one of the things that I've been also noticing is that even though I'm super scared, I'm completely sure that those changes will never ever enter into America, because I'm seeing that everybody is realistically coming to the center. And that's what I'm seeing even in this state, and we are, as Tatiana says, very in front of the State House. But I also want to report to you that I've been seeing Latinos actually not even in connection with the Democrats or with the Republican. I'm seeing Latinos asking to be in the center, and I'm seeing a lot of Americans actually asking to be in the center because they feel like the radicalism that we're seeing in both sides are very definitely difficult to understand. So obviously English is my second language, and for me it's difficult to express and speak exactly the way I wanted to transfer it. But what I wanted to do with you today, and I'm going to be extremely quick because it's hot, and I think that we put some sort of effort to being here, is the fact that I'm positive about the future. I think that when I see my kids, 19-year-old, and even my 14-year-old daughter, making opinions about political stuff, I think that because of these engagements, I think there is a positive outcome. As you know, some of them, when they are very young, they became very idealistic and they don't understand the ramification of those changes. But what I do understand is that when they enter into politics, it will be more difficult for others to impose a dark agenda. And again, I don't want to judge any of Tatiana, I don't want to judge any of the Republicans, neither any of the Democrats, because in both sides, there is smart people and there is people that love this country. And we need to make sure that what it prevails, and I finish here, is the fact that I don't feel any danger doing this here. But if you do that in Caracas, Venezuela, I bet you guys that some of the radical left will try not only to kill you. So what I want to make sure for us to understand is that no matter if we are thinking different than the people here, we don't get attacked. And actually what is built in this country, and I want to keep it that way, there is a lot of people around that they don't like President Trump, but they don't come to attack us. And that's what I want to make sure is happening in this rally, that we all understand that what we need to fight is for the diversity of opinion and make sure that every voice is here. With the Black Lives Matter, with the Latinx community, with the Jewish, and with everybody, we need to make sure that we all have a contribution. And I really appreciate Solana to inviting me here, and I hope that my message again reach out to you, each of you. I'm sad for Venezuela, but I'm very bullish and positive for America. Thank you very much, okay?
Okay, our next speaker is the editor of the newspaper for Cuban community, El Mundo, Alberto Vasallo. Alberto was born here, but his father escaped Cuba in 1965.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to start off by being very clear. For the last 25 years, I also work for Channel 7, El Mundo. When I show up to these events, people think I'm covering the event as a member of the media. But today I'm here just as the son of a Cuban exile. And the reason why I want to make that clear is because I was not born in Cuba. I wasn't born in Russia or Venezuela. I was born right here in Boston City Hospital, Boston, Massachusetts. I went to Boston College High School, Boston College, and I've grown up my whole life here in Boston, working in the media. And when I heard about this event, I said, I'm going to participate, but as a member of the group, because for my entire life, I've been listening and hearing from my father, who is an exiled Cuban. He did escape from Cuba, and from my Venezuelan friends over the last 10, 15 years, and from my Russian friends in each community. And I've always felt that the experience that people who have suffered under these systems have never had the narrative. They've never had the same amount of media time, the same amount of space, the same amount of opportunities for expression. And it's unfortunate because we're living in a time right now where it seems like there are many social justice movements, there are many opinions, there are many different points of views. And this point of view is very important for those who have actually lived under these systems and can understand what the dangers are. So when I came here today and I told her, I said, I'm not covering this for Channel 7 or for El Mundo. I'm coming as someone who wants to encourage you guys, because I know that sometimes it can be frustrating for you. You might seem that for every one of your messages they get out 20 of other messages that really don't align with what we know. And what is it that we know? What is it that we stand for? It's very clear. The American values, democracy, freedom of expression, diversity, all of these things that for those of you who have lived under a communist system, you understand that those are things that we take for granted here in the United States, and we don't give them the importance that we do. So for that, I just wanted to come here for a little while and share with you guys, be with you guys, and encourage you guys to continue to what you're doing. And for you, I want you to do this every year. I know this is the first time. Next year, there'll be 3 times as many people because we're all going to spread the word. I know I'm going to spread the word in the Cuban community and the Venezuelan community. So I thank you all for coming, and today I'm one of you. Thank you.
Alberto did a great job. He really spread the word and he was really, really supportive of our cause. Okay, our next speaker will be Andrew Gorlin, the professor of Boston University who came from Moscow in 1988?
87.
87.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you hear me? Do you hear me all right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I will say different speech than the one that I prepared because Svetlana, Alex, Tatiana, and everybody else, they described this from the personal stories, practically everything you need to know about socialism. So I will tell you my personal story. And this personal story will be about Czechoslovakia. Even though I'm not from Czechoslovakia, I don't have any relatives or any ties with Czechoslovakia. But in 1968, I was a student, 18-year-old student at Moscow University, and in Czechoslovakia next door, at the same time, was happening what was known as Prague Spring. So all of a sudden, they starting liberalization. They starting
Bring closer.
better.
Yes.
Better. Okay. They starting publishing books that we couldn't imagine being published. They're making films. They are officially eliminating censorship. They were inviting non-communists into the government. And we read about all this in Czech newspapers. Were not yet forbidden. And we had young students from Czechoslovakia, Rudy, who translated everything for us. And it's amazing. What a country. We want something like that. And they call it socialism with human face. And back then it sounded very attractive, but right now I understand how ironic it is, because it's assumed that socialist doesn't have a human face by definition, which is of course true. But back then it was a wonderful thing, and we want it here as well in Soviet Union. Okay, then summer of 1968 came, Rudy went back to Czechoslovakia for vacation, and he never came back. Because just 2 days ago, 52 years ago, in August 21st, 1968, Soviet tanks invaded Czechoslovakia, and everything came to an end. Czechoslovakia became occupied country. And it was, I tell it a personal story, because for me, I felt it personally, because we had so much hope for the Soviet Union. Maybe after all this country went through, it will become more or less normal country where we could live. No, it was crushed, everything, in August 1968. And the culmination came a few months later when Czech student Jan Palach burned himself alive at Wenceslav Square in Prague. It was really personal to me, because I was the same age. He was full of life. My life was ahead of me, and I could understand him completely. He felt powerless individual against the machine. He couldn't do anything other than this absolute ultimate dramatic act. So for me, among all the tens of millions of victims of communism, each of whom has his or her own tragic story, to me personally, it's the most tragic story. Of course, his death didn't change anything, didn't move the hearts of Soviet Empire, but it really helped, because what is known now as Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, which happened in 1988 and which brought end to the Soviet occupation, and essentially Czech Republic became a free country. It started during the 20th commemoration of Jan Palach's death. It was the rally, it was brutally attacked by police, and essentially it was the start of this Velvet Revolution. So this is my personal story, and to end I want to end with the words of Vladimir Bukovsky, who is one of the most heroic Soviet dissidents fighting against communism. For many years he was imprisoned several times. He would die in prison if not for some whim of the Soviet party leaders who decided to exchange him for Chilean communist Luis Corvalán. So Bukovsky ended up.
Hey.
Where is our hero?
It's about how is it right here? They're looking like it.
They do that all the time. They do that all the time everywhere. Watch your sign. If they steal it, they destroy it. And police doesn't do anything.
No, it does.
So this is the right
Too many of them.
Okay.
Let's focus.
Okay.
It does right now.
So Vladimir Bukovsky was also one of the wisest men of modern times. And after living for some time in Great Britain and witnessing what's happening there and in the West in general, he used to say to his British friends, "I know your future. I lived in it." So I lived in it too, and I didn't like it, and I'm sure that neither would you. So let's prevent it from happening. Thank you.
Okay. Now I invite to the podium. Oh my goodness! Nissan Gaibal. Where is he? Nissan. Oh, yeah. He is an Israeli-American person who has a lot of friends from socialist countries, and he looks like he doesn't want to see socialism here.
Never. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Who here does not speak Russian? Raise your hand. All right. Yeah, okay. You ruined the joke. All right. So, how is it that so many people here speak Russian? I will speak in my natural accent instead of sounding like your natural accent. I was born in Chicago. And higher? Higher? All right. Ooh, I'll kiss it. So, when Tanya invited me to come here, she said there's an event about the 23rd of August. I study history and I never heard of this event. So my first question was, is there parking? And how is it that we are such a small group here, and does it matter? Does it matter? And most of the people here have experienced totalitarianism. And as you notice, most of the people in this park are not coming here to join us because it's irrelevant to them. They don't know what it is. And so my big question is, will this matter? Will it matter that we're standing here? And here's my answer, that there's a story from a rabbi that goes like this. There was a kingdom in which
the wise man said that the present crop is going to drive everyone crazy. So anyone who eats from it is going to go crazy. What should we do? And the wise man said, go to another town, get enough wheat, food for one person and put it in a room, and you'll be the only one who can eat it. And the king asks, what good is that? And the wise man said, everyone else is going to be crazy, but at least you can walk through the town and say you're crazy. So I have lived in America and I have lived in Israel, and I want to tell you that the Russians do the same thing in each country, because people who have not experienced the uselessness, the oppression of what happens when people forget, not they forget, they don't understand, they've never experienced what oppression is. They just don't, they're blind and they don't understand. So we're always going to have a battle everywhere in every country between people who understand and people who just don't. So I want to give a word of encouragement, because it looks bad. Doesn't it look bad? That all over, it seems like this country's going crazy. How is it that kids who were born with everything and went to college to learn to be wise, they're in the streets trying to tear this country apart? Sounds the opposite of what we'd expect. So that's a fact, but I want to give my appreciation for everyone standing here. Even though we're a small group, there are many people in this country who identify with us. They just didn't know that we were standing here today. And this country was founded on the value of an individual. And it's the only country in the world that was founded on that. And it's inbred in the country. So as bad as it gets, there's something basic to this country that we can all relate to, even the nutcases. They can't ignore it. And what's happening is that they are making it so clear that their direction of ending, defunding the police, tearing apart the government, begging that everything be free, and that someone from above, top-down government, that they know better than we do, even though that's very enticing, there's a strong, that makes it so clear to the rest of the people who aren't crazy yet, this is the wrong way. It's never been so clear. So for you who have gone through it, it's very clear. And now the worse it gets in the videos, the more clear it gets to the American people. And that's the encouragement I want to give us all. So we can expect good things after this. We can really expect that even though we're a small group here, what's happening all over the country is something that our message is getting out, even though this little thing is to maybe a small group. So I just want to tell you, I didn't know that this was called the Black Ribbon Memorial, and I didn't have a ribbon, so I took a sock. But I wanted at least to honor what it's called, so just remember that black socks matter.
Okay, guys. Hello? So, anyone else wants to say a word? Yes? You just speak, introduce yourself, okay?
All right, everyone. I'm one of those that have been in the country my whole life. Went to Boston College, and I ran for state representative. over in South Boston. What's happening is a disgrace to our country. And the gentleman is right. Apathy. We just don't care. We're interested in the Red Sox, the Patriots, and all, and the Emmys and the Oscars, and we don't pay attention. I ran for state rep, ran against Ray Flynn, former mayor, ambassador to the Vatican, and he won. He was a decent guy, pro-life. I was talking about taxes. I'm an accountant. I wanted to cut taxes. So I just want to leave you with a quote from Ronald Reagan. What are the 9 most dangerous words in the English language? Anybody know that? I'm from the government and I'm here to help you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, sure. And you are?
Roger Frost.
Okay.
I'm from Worcester, Roger Frost. I took advantage. I was lazy for many years until I got stationed overseas in the Philippines and Singapore, and then I realized something was wrong when I saw the socialism in the Philippines under Marcos and a few other countries. And then I didn't do much when I came back over here, but I got involved with it. I was a state delegate in 2012, and I was for Mark Fisher for governor, but unfortunately people elected Mr. Baker. And now since I saw so much corruption now, it's hard to wake people up because we have so much money, maybe our pensions and plans, but just one voice can make a difference. And I'm involved with strong Christian radio and television that I hope will help people get the word out. And thank you for your new candidates here. And I'm helping out another candidate in District 7 against Ms. Presley and a few others. And thank you for all your help here, and we can bring small groups all over the country and its cities. Thank you.
More speakers? And you are?
Gregory Kapunovich. I came to the country in 1989. I realized that I am preaching to the choir, so I'll try to be quick. There is some experience I want to share. I grew up in the Soviet Union. As like most people who came from there, I got vaccinated against Marxism at the young age. And that's why it's especially horrifying now to see it marching right towards me with full strength. Recently I had this interesting experience. I watched a democratic debate. Apparently there is a congressional seat vacated in the 4th district by Joe Kennedy, and there were 8 candidates pretending for that seat. And one episode especially was telling. They were all, of course, all left, but some more moderate than another. And they accused one guy. What happened is 5 years ago, apparently, some students from the Newton High School committed an unforgivable, unbelievable crime. What they did, you won't believe, they actually drove in the empty parking lot, waving the Confederate flag from the car. Obviously, those students should have been executed on the stake and expelled from school forever. But one guy, the candidate, at the time was in the position of authority. I don't remember, he was in the school committee or in the city hall. So he voted against punishment, and others held it against him. So the poor guy said that I'm all against those students, but we have First Amendment. And the others were like, don't you hide behind the First Amendment. So what's happening is our Constitution is under attack. And the witch hunt is already happening, and people are getting laid off for what they think, fired. So everyone, I hope, is asking, what can I do? And there are 2 things that everyone can and should do. One is obvious, everybody knows that you should come and vote. But there is another thing which is widely omitted. It is vote in the primaries. Because that's the only way we can't make sure, but at least we can make everything we can that come election day, we have at least a choice, not what described in the famous song from the Russian movie, Election Day.
Okay, if no one else wants to speak, I think at this note we'll... Oh, of course you can speak, okay? Okay, Vladimir Fogelman, he's the director of Center Makor, Russian Jewish Cultural Center.
Hi everyone, I already was introduced. You know, we are working with a Russian-speaking community, mostly Jewish Russian-speaking community, but not exclusively. We have everybody in our center coming to us, and before, of course, pandemic. But a little bit story of mine, why is democracy and liberty is very, very important for me. You know, when I went to interview to American embassy in Moscow, interviewer asked me, what could you tell me about anti-Semitism? I said, you know what story do you want? Do you have time? I can go shortly, I can go very long. Because anti-Semitism was like part of my life and part of my job, because I was running Jewish center and Jewish children dance group, which was very, very famous in Europe and Ukraine. But when I came here, I realized what we can stand up for democracy and for right of freedom, and freedom to do what you like to do, to express yourself as any person, like as Jew, as Christian, as American, as Cuban, as Venezuelan, with all culture what you are representing. And that's why America came to me as my country, my soulmate, let's say, in my heart. And this time I would like to ask you to come on primaries on November 3rd and vote, and don't stay aside. Doesn't matter who you will vote, but vote, please, vote. Thank you.
We have one more.
We have one more speaker from the Vietnamese community. Your name is?
Ciao Kelly.
Ciao Kelly.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm so happy to see many of us are here today, especially those that know the communists. It's very important for us to speak up and be here, because this country is moving toward the communism system. And most Americans are so naive and innocent. They have no clue what communism is all about. And the people that came from Russia, from Cuba, from China, North Korea, Vietnam, all those European countries that have communists before, like East Germany and all that, we all know communism is all about queuing the lines for everything in your life. And only the corrupted, the uneducated, but had the gun, had the right to speak. And the rest of us are sheep. And I always tell people, I said, listen, if this country moving towards socialism, when we have the Democrats win this election, this country become a communist paradise. And those that came from the communist countries, we can survive, because we lived it, we know it, and we can survive. But the Americans, the majority of Americans cannot survive, because you have no clue what communism is all about. My father was a POW after 1975 in the Vietnam War. April 30th, 1975. We lost the war by force by the North Communists. He was imprisoned along with hundreds of thousands of officers that served in the South Vietnam years, 25 years. And we know, and not just those officers, their wives and children, innocent children, were persecuted their whole life. We on the blacklist our whole life. And here in this country, I found that I am on the blacklist still by the Democrats on Facebook. They blocked me so many times for speaking up my mind. I thought I had the freedom of speech now here in America, which I don't anymore. So I had to be here with the people that need to stand for, and who knows it best when you lose it. It's us, those that came from the communist countries, and we have a duty and responsibility to the founding fathers of this country who fought their whole life to take this country and create liberty and freedom for all. And we are here to preserve it. Americans need to wake up. No communism. That's equal Nazism, fascism, and Democrats, the same thing. So please go to vote on September 1st. September 1st, primary. Go vote, and remember November 3rd, you go vote with your vote of conscience. If you want to be in the re-education camp, which is a hard labor prison like my father's and hundreds of thousands of people, please vote for Democrat. If you want to preserve your right to stand here, daylight, and talk about what you want, then you better vote straight Republicans. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm from the Vietnamese American for Trump. We know it best, and we love President Trump. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I think with this, we will wrap up our meeting. It was very inspiring, very enthusiastic, and I hope it will be very productive. We'll spread the word, and Peter will play some patriotic music for us. Will you, Peter?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, good. So, thank you very much for coming. Spread the word, put your pictures on Facebook, tell your friends, and we'll try to repeat it one way or another. And thank you.
Thanks for your speech.
We should have more. We're going after this. We're going after this. Yeah, I get the people. Bill Grant, John.
Thank you for everyone for coming out. There's nothing more important.
I email it. You probably have my email though.
Все, ну, все, закончено. Сейчас, подожди, сейчас. Давай, последний снимки. Здрасте, я вас не узнал. Так, у вас есть? Да.
I've got a song that's appropriate for the occasion here. It's called Wake Up America. Take our one and only vote, tax money and our trust. Then they sell us down the road, those bastards work for us. Chipping away our freedom, it's just a matter of time. Wrong is right and black is white, they're messing with our minds. They divide us to control us, it's been their best laid plans. It's got to stop right here, right now, our destiny's at hand. Fighting with brothers and sisters, can we find some common ground? It's time to stop the double down. Wake up, America, there's an enemy within. See them all sitting so tall, parishioners of sin. Wake up, America, there's an enemy within. See them all pissing down our backs and telling us it's raining. Grooming our only children to fight their endless wars. Let's go turn our guns on them, we don't need them anymore. My God, how do they do this? How do they stay on top? Special interest banks and trusts selling off our crops. We put them up on pedestals and we tell them that they're great. How can we live without them? Let them have their police state. There'll only be one winner when all this is said and done. The right and left will be no more. Armageddon has begun. Wake up, America, there's an enemy within. See them all acting so tall, parishioners of sin. Wake up, America, there's an enemy within. See them all pissing down your backs and telling us it's raining. Divide and conquer, the oldest trick in the book, my friends. While we're busy fighting with each other, our country's being sold off, piece by piece, to the highest bidders, all for the love of money. Oh yeah, they're having a party, but we're not invited. Wake up, America, and smell the coffee. They don't need you anymore. Can't we all just get together? Can't we all stand side by side? So if we all die fighting, history can say we tried. Wake up, America, there's an enemy within. See them all sitting so tall, parishioners of sin. Wake up, America, there's an enemy within. See them all pissing down our backs and telling us it's raining.
Thank you very much.
Here, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, back here. I'm getting old.
Hold on, okay. Can you please take me one?
Sure, absolutely.
No, I got it. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Congress? Only 4.
I took 4.
You know that every
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to see a photo, you can go to my Facebook. Yeah.